So the 2024 to 25 NBA season is approaching, and because of that, I think it would be a good time to come out with my predictions for how I think this year is going to play out. I'm going to give my standings predictions for the Eastern and Western Conference Western Conference. Then I'm also going to give my playoff predictions and who I think will win the championship. And then finally, I'm going to give my award picks. But before we do get started, please go ahead and hit that like button if you guys end up enjoying the video, since it really does help out the channel. And of course, subscribe if you guys are new and you guys enjoy content like this. But without further ado, let's go ahead and let's get this video started. Alright, so to kick things off, I'm going to go over the East. I'm going to go from worst to first, so seeds 15 to 1. So at number 15, I got the Brooklyn Nets. I don't think this should be much of a surprise to really anybody. I mean, the Brooklyn Nets are going to be in contention for being the worst team in the NBA, and this team is going to be in the Cooper Flag sweepstakes. I mean, after all, they are in the first year of a rebuild, and this team is just not very talented. And the main goal for this team this year is that they're going to try and find, young guys who can be a part of their future, outside of Cameron Thomas, since Cameron Thomas is really their only established young player. You do have Nicholas Claxton, who I think, should be a part of the Nets for the foreseeable future, and you do have some solid veterans, but again, this team is going to be absolutely horrible, and I do expect them to trade some of those veterans in exchange for assets. At number 14, I got the Washington Wizards. The Wizards, I mean, they are in the second year of a rebuild, and there are some pretty nice young pieces on this team. Like, you obviously have Bilal Coulibaly. You also got Alex Sarr, who you drafted in this past year's NBA draft, and I loved him. Coming out of France, I thought he was the best player in this past year's NBA draft, and they also drafted a few other guys in the first round who I think could be pretty good players. And you do have some nice veterans like Kyle Kuzma and Jonas Valanciunas. Corey Kispert's like an older player who's also not that bad either. You also got Malcolm Brogdon as well. Jordan Poole is also an interesting player, since last year for the Wizards, when he was starting, he was obviously pretty bad, but when he was moved to the bench, he actually played pretty well. So I am interested to see, how is Jordan Poole going to be for the Wizards this year? And, what's his future with this team going to be? Like, is he going to be traded soon, or is Washington going to keep him? But yeah, the Wizards, I mean, they got some nice young pieces and some decent veterans, but at the end of the day, this team is still not very good, and I still expect them to be pretty bad, and they are going to be in the Cooper Flag sweepstakes. At number 13, I have the Chicago Bulls. This year, I think the Chicago Bulls are finally going to start to rebuild. I feel like they've kind of been preparing for that this offseason, when they traded away Alex Caruso and when they let DeMar DeRozan leave in free agency. And honestly, that's what that is a smart move. I mean, it's being a rebuilding team with an actual direction, it's way better than being in purgatory, which is what the Bulls were in for the past few years. So I expect them to trade guys like Zach LaVine and Nikola Vucevic, and I think they are going to focus on some of their younger guys like Kobe White and goddamn, what's his name? Yeah, Josh Giddey as well. Matas Buzelis, I think they're obviously going to focus on him if he does get significant playing time in his rookie year. But yeah, man, the Bulls, I think they are going to finally start rebuilding this year, and this team, they're going to be pretty bad as a result of it. But hey, again, it's way better than being in purgatory. At number 12, I have the Detroit Pistons. The Detroit Pistons, I mean, they do have the potential to be a play-in team. I definitely think that. Cade Cunningham, he's really good, and they got a lot of young talent outside of him. Like, you got Jaden Ivey as well. Jalen Duren has a lot of potential. You got Asar Thompson. I like Marcus Sasser a lot as well. And credit to the Pistons for also getting for improving the shooting and spacing this offseason. They got guys like Tobias Harris and Malik Beasley and Simone Fontecchio, all of whom are good floor spacers. And that's one of the big X factors for the Pistons. Like, how much better is the floor spacing going to be this year? And can the young guys, progress and take leaps? Because that's what's been holding the Pistons back for the past few years, and why they were, so bad last year when so many people expected them to be a possible play-in team, because the young guys, they just didn't take massive leaps, and the spacing was absolutely horrible. So the Detroit Pistons, again, they definitely got the talent to be a play-in team, and I do think the spacing will be better, and I think the young guys, they will definitely take leaps, but I don't think the Pistons will make the play-in, and I will say I do have a little bit of a hard time trusting Detroit. But again, Detroit, they should be a lot better than they were last year, and again, they very well could be a play-in team. At number 11, I have the Toronto Raptors. The Raptors, I think, will be boosted in the standings just simply for the fact that the East has like 3 of the worst teams in the NBA, like 3 to 4 of the worst teams in the league. So yeah, because of that, seedings-wise, the Raptors, they will be boosted up. And the Raptors definitely got some decent talent. Like, they do have Scotty Barnes, who's really good. RJ Barrett and Emmanuel Quickley played very well for them after they were traded there before the deadline. I think Grady Dick is also going to take a leap this year. You drafted Jacoby Walter out of Baylor in this past year's NBA draft. And Bruce Brown and Jakob Poeltl are two pretty good veterans. So the Raptors, they got some nice talent. However, at the end of the day, Toronto is really not, a great team. They are still a pretty young team as well. And I think Toronto is going to focus on rebuilding this year. So because of that, that will affect their win total. And that could prevent them, from further success like making the play-in tournament. So they definitely got the potential to be a play-in team, but I don't think that will happen just simply for the fact that, again, they still aren't a great team, and I think they will focus more on rebuilding. Plus, I think they are going to try and trade some of their veteran pieces like Bruce Brown and Jakob Poeltl, but that's pretty much all I have to say about the Raptors. At number 10, I have the Charlotte Hornets. The Hornets honestly could have, they really could have made the play-in. I really do believe that if LaMelo Ball stayed healthy in the past few years, they very well could have made the play-in tournament. The problem with the Hornets, their season really just hinges on the fact, on if LaMelo Ball can stay healthy. Like, LaMelo Ball is a really good player when he is on the floor. The problem is he's just so damn injury prone. So again, he has to stay healthy, and I'll admit, it is hard to trust him to stay healthy, and I kind of am at a point where I gotta see it to believe it. But you know what? I'm gonna say screw it, and I'm gonna take like a slight leap of faith and bank on LaMelo Ball staying mostly healthy. I don't expect him to play like 78 games or anything like that, but I'm gonna bank on the fact that he plays like maybe like 60 to like 64 games, like something like that. If LaMelo Ball can stay mostly healthy, I think Charlotte very well could be a play-in team because they got guys like Brandon Miller. Mark Williams is good when he's healthy. They drafted Tijani Salon out of this past year's NBA draft. We'll see how much playing time he gets this year. You acquired Josh Green this past offseason. You got Grant Williams. I think Trey Mann is going to be in for a pretty good season since, he was pretty good for the Hornets after he was traded to them at the deadline. And along with that, they do have Miles Bridges, who admittedly is an absolutely dog shit person, but I guess as a basketball player, he's not that bad. And the Hornets do have a new coach as well. I don't know how good, who knows how good he is. He is a rookie head coach, but he is a former player, and he is a relatively young guy, and maybe he can relate to the players, and maybe he does turn out to be a pretty good head coach. Again, the Hornets, they just gotta stay LaMelo Ball just has to stay healthy. If he does stay healthy, they very well could make the play-in tournament and possibly the playoffs. At number 9, I have the Atlanta Hawks. Look, the Atlanta Hawks, I feel like it's going to be the same story with them as it has been the past few years. They're going to be a play-in tournament, and they're just going to be mid. They aren't going to be a horrible team, but they aren't going to be a contender either. I mean, this is going to be, they did trade away DeJounte Murray this past offseason, and DeJounte Murray wasn't a very good fit for them, so I definitely get that and whatnot, and some people do have hope that maybe that, now that they've traded away DeJounte Murray, and now that they got guys who, they think fit Trae Young a lot better and fit this Hawks team a lot better, that they can actually be like a serious threat. But me personally, I just don't really, I don't know, I don't really see it. I mean, Trae Young is amazing. Jalen Johnson is pretty good. They also drafted Zachary Risache in this past year's NBA draft, #1 overall, and I liked him. I did like him coming out of France. And, they got some solid role players as well, and Quinn Snyder isn't that bad of a head coach, but I don't think this Hawks team is really going to be good enough to do anything serious. So that's really all I have to say about the Atlanta Hawks. I think they're going to be mid once again. At number 8, I got the Miami Heat. The Miami Heat, I mean, I gotta be honest, they just aren't a very good regular season team. They aren't really built to win in the regular season, and Jimmy Butler also just doesn't really try in the regular season, which, At first, I didn't really have much of a problem with it, but to be honest, in the past few years, I kind of have started to take issue with it just simply for the fact that it holds the Heat back. But yeah, man, the Heat, they aren't a bad team. It's just, again, they aren't built to win in the regular season, and it doesn't help that Jimmy Butler is just getting up there in age. I mean, Jimmy Butler's really good, Bam Adebayo's good, Tyler Hero's a good regular season player. I think Terry Rozier should be better, since he wasn't very good for them, after he was traded to Miami at the deadline. They got Jaime Jaquez, who I think will be better. I think Nikola Jovic could also be better. I do like Kel'el Ware, the guy they drafted in the first round in this past year's NBA draft. I really do like him a lot. And again, Miami, they aren't a bad team. It's just I don't think they are built to win in the regular season, and I don't think this team is a contender. They could go on another surprise Cinderella run, but I just don't see it happening. At number 7, I got the Philadelphia 76ers. I kind of went over it already in a YouTube video, but the Philadelphia 76ers at 7 could surprise people, given the fact that they just acquired Paul George this past offseason, and they got guys like Joel Embiid and Tyrese Maxey and whatnot. However, the Philadelphia 76ers, while they do have a pretty talented big three, they just aren't that deep of a team. And along with that, both Paul George and Joel Embiid are very injury prone. In the Eastern Conference, now that we are approaching the top, I do feel like, seeds like 2 through 7 could honestly be kind of interchangeable. And yeah, the Philadelphia 76ers very well could be higher. I could see them being like the 2 seed if Joel Embiid and Paul George stay healthy and they play most of the regular they play like 70 to 80 games or something like that. But I just don't really see that happening. I feel like Paul George and Joel Embiid will deal with injury issues. I think that lack of depth, or that mediocre depth is going to hurt them at some point. So I got the 76ers at the 7th seed, but again, they could be higher. At number 6, I have the Indiana Pacers. The Indiana Pacers obviously went on a miraculous run to the Eastern Conference Finals last year. And, we'll see if they do repeat it this season. But I think the Indiana Pacers, they should be pretty good. I mean, they got Tyrese Halliburton, who's one of the best players in the league. You got Pascal Siakam, who's an all-star to all-NBA level player. You got really good role players around them and good starters. I think Rick Carlisle is a pretty good head coach. And I think Jarace Walker is going to take a big leap this year and be like a real contributor. And offensively, this team is going to be amazing. The big X factor for them is how good are they going to be on defense, because that has been like the Achilles heel of this team for the past few years. So the Indiana Pacers, I mean, they are a really good team. It's just, I want to see I think the main issue with them is their defense. Like, that defense has to improve. I think their defense will be a little bit better than it was last year, but who knows how much better it's going to be. At number 5, I have the Orlando Magic. The Magic last year were the biggest surprise in the league. As most people expected them to be kind of, to be like below average, but they ended up being a top 5 seed in the Eastern Conference and making the playoffs. And if you guys have been watching me for like about a year now, you would know that I was pretty high on the Orlando Magic. So the Magic surprising people, I wasn't as surprised compared to others. I guess the part that did surprise me is, just how good they were. I didn't think they would be a top 5 seed in the East. But yeah, the Magic, I think they are going to repeat a similar success in the regular season. You got Paolo Banchero, he's really good. I think Franz Wagner is also pretty good, and he's going to play well this year. You got Jalen Suggs. I think Anthony Black is going to be even better this season. I think Jet Howard, he could possibly take a leap this year. You got Wendell Carter as well. You got Cole Anthony. You got Mo Wagner as well. Jamal Mosley's a really good head coach. And the Magic are one of the best defensive teams. They were one of the best defensive teams in the league last year, and I think that should continue in 2025. I think the big X factor for them is going to be their offense, and how much better their offense and their floor spacing is going to be. But me personally, I think their offense and their floor spacing should be better. Like, they acquired KCP this offseason, and he's a really good 3-and-D guard. Along with that, I think Franz Wagner should be a better 3-point shooter, and I think if Anthony Black does take a leap, then that should obviously help their defense, but that's also going to help their offense as well. So yeah, the Orlando Magic, I think they will be pretty good. The main factor is how much better their offense will be. I think their offense will be better than it was last year, but that said, I don't think they'll be like an elite offense or anything like that. At number 4, I have the Milwaukee Bucks. The Bucks, I'm going to say it right now, I think that this team, like, they're total frauds. I don't think they are title contenders. One, they got Doc Rivers as their head coach, and that man is just a free second round exit or like a free first round exit even. Point is, if you are a contending team, you are not getting past the second round with Doc Rivers as your head coach. And along with that, the perimeter defense is still a little bit questionable and whatnot. But that said, the Bucks, I do think they should have a pretty good regular season. Like, you do have Giannis. I think Damian Lillard is going to be a lot better this year, and I think he should be more consistent. You got Chris Middleton, and you do have like a decent supporting cast around Giannis and Dame. And I will say, they did make some, decent offseason additions. So again, they will be good in the regular season, in my opinion. It's just, again, in the playoffs, I don't think they are going to be like a true threat to win it all. At number 3, I got the Cleveland Cavaliers. The Cavs, last year they did deal with some injuries to guys like Evan Mobley and Darius Garland, but with that, even then, they were still a top 4 seed in the Eastern Conference. And the Cavs, they got a really talented starting 5, and I think this team is kind of built to win in the regular season. And I think, at the end of the day, they are still a pretty good team, and they did hire Kenny Atkinson to replace JB Bickerstaff as their head coach, and I like Kenny Atkinson a lot, as a head coach. So me personally, I think the Cavs are going to be really good. I think Darius Garland is going to bounce back. They obviously got Donovan Mitchell, who's amazing, and he's their best player. You got Jarrett Allen, you got Max Strus. Obviously you got Evan Mobley as well. And Evan Mobley, I'm really hoping that this is the year that he takes that big offensive leap. Because I really do like him a lot as a player. And defensively, he's amazing. The main thing with him is, can his offense get better? And the Cavs also, they got like a okay bench as well. I think this team could be a contender, but we'll see about if they are like a true threat to win it all. But regular season wise, I think this team should be pretty good. At number 2, I got the New York Knicks. I made a video on the Knicks like a week ago, I guess at this when this video is being released. But yeah, man, the Knicks, I think they are going to be I think they are going to have a really good regular season. I think they're going to be a top 4 seed in the Eastern Conference at the bare minimum. You got Jalen Brunson, you got really good role players and good starting level guys around him. Tom Thibodeau is a really good head coach, and Karl Anthony Towns. Obviously, there are question marks about his addition to the Knicks and if he does make them title contenders and whatnot. But Karl Anthony Towns, again, while there are some doubts, some reasonable doubts, at the end of the day, he is still a pretty good player, and I still think he does bring positives to this Knicks team, and I think he does provide them with the secondary shot creator and with the second scoring option. And me personally, I do think Karl Anthony Towns should be pretty solid for the Knicks. And then at number 1, I got the Boston Celtics. I don't think anyone is really surprised by this. The Celtics are clearly the best team in the Eastern Conference. They're obviously the reigning NBA champions, and they returned virtually the same team as they had last year. Except this year, who knows? They could be a little bit better. Maybe Xavier Tillman gets more acclimated to their system and becomes a real contributor. And they also did sign Lonnie Walker. I don't know how much of an impact he's going to have, but maybe he does have an impact. But the point is, the Boston Celtics are obviously an absolutely phenomenal team. And me personally, I think they're going to get the 1 seed in the Eastern Conference with relative ease. Alright, next up, we got the Western Conference, and we're going to do the exact same thing, worst to first. So at number 15, I got the Portland Trailblazers. No surprise here. The Blazers are still a young team, and they are still rebuilding, so because of that, I don't think they'll be very good. They do have quite a bit of young talent, and they do have some nice veteran pieces, but at the end of the day, this team is still rebuilding, so I don't expect them to be very good. I will say, though, if you are a Blazers fan, you better hope Scoot Henderson has a better sophomore year, because his rookie year, it obviously wasn't very good, but hey, to be fair to him, it is just, his rookie year, and sometimes guys just, take time to get acclimated to the NBA level. But, he didn't look very good in preseason, I will say that. It is just preseason, though, so I guess take it with a bit of a grain of salt. But yeah, Scoot Henderson, he has to be a lot better this upcoming season, because if he doesn't have a good sophomore year, then we got to have some serious concerns about how he's going to be, you know, in the NBA. But yeah, the Blazers, again, I don't expect them to be very good this year, and I think they will be the worst team in the West. At number 14, I got the Utah Jazz. The Utah Jazz, you know, Lauri Markkanen is pretty nice. I think Taylor Hendricks is going to have a really good sophomore year. You know, they got Colin Sexton as well. You know, this team, you know, they do have some nice players, but the Western Conference is just really deep. And because of that, I think the Utah Jazz are going to be a pretty bad team. And I also do think that the Jazz, after like 2 years of kind of being in purgatory, are going to commit to like rebuilding, I guess, and, you know, kind of tanking this upcoming year. And honestly, I think that is a good strategy, you know, because again, it's a lot better to be a rebuilding team with a direction rather than being a team in purgatory. So I do feel like the Jazz will kind of inadvertently tank this upcoming year, and, you know, especially given how good and how deep the Western Conference is. At number 13, I have the San Antonio Spurs. Some people think the Spurs could make the play-in tournament, and that is definitely possible. I do think there is a world where that does happen, but while I do think Victor Wembanyama is going to be even better in his second season, and they do have some nice young talent outside of him, and the addition of Chris Paul definitely should help that team, since he does give them like a true playmaker, and he is a good veteran leader. The Spurs are still a young team, and they are still developing. And like I said before, the Western Conference is really good and it's really deep. So because of that, the Spurs, you know, they are gonna have some trouble, you know, trying to be like a top 10 seed in the West and trying to make the play-in tournament. And ultimately, I think there are just some teams in the Western Conference who right now are just better than San Antonio. And, you know, San Antonio, again, they are young and they are developing. So I got the Spurs at the 13 seed, but they very well could make the play-in tournament. At number 12, I have the Los Angeles Clippers. This might come as a shock to some people, but I am not high on the Clippers this year. I think this is going to be like the last year of the Kawhi Leonard era in LA. The Clippers, look, Kawhi Leonard is really good when he's healthy, and James Harden is still pretty good, even though he is getting up there in age, and even though he has, you know, he is declining, and they do have some nice role players. It's just, the Clippers, it's hard to trust them to really do anything because Kawhi Leonard is just so damn injury prone. And if he's, given how injury prone he is, James Harden is going to have to be the number one scoring option and be, you know, their number one guy. And I just don't think James Harden at this point in his career can really be a number one option on a championship level team. And yeah, I mean, I just have a hard time, you know, believing that Kawhi Leonard is going to stay healthy. And because of that, I think the Clippers are going to be in for a kind of rough season. I think after this year, or maybe even halfway through this year, the Clippers are going to, you know, trade, you know, some of their veterans and some of their role players. And I think they'll try to trade Kawhi Leonard and James Harden. And I think they'll try to rebuild. I'd bet that happens after this season. But yeah, man, I'm not very high on the Clippers. At number 11, I got the Golden State Warriors. The Warriors, they obviously let Klay Thompson go this offseason, and they did sign some pretty good role players, and they are a deep team. You obviously still got Stephen Curry. Draymond Green is still a pretty good player. I think Jonathan Kuminga is going to be really good this upcoming season, and Steve Kerr, he is still a pretty good head coach. However, the Western Conference, again, it is just so damn good, and it is just so damn deep. So because of that, I don't think the Warriors will make the play-in tournament. I think they very well could make the play-in, and I wouldn't call you crazy if you had them as like the 10, like as like a 7 through 10 seed. But, you know, me personally, I just think that, you know, some other teams are gonna be better than the Warriors this upcoming season. And while I do think Jonathan Kuminga will be pretty good this upcoming season, I am wondering, you know, how much better is he gonna be? Like, is he gonna be like a good enough to be like a championship number 2, because that's the kind of production the Warriors are going to need if they want to be better than like a play-in team. At number 10, I got the Houston Rockets. The Rockets nearly made the play-in tournament last year, and me personally, I think this is going to be the year that they kind of break through and they do make the play-in tournament. You obviously got a lot of young talent, and you also do have some nice veterans as well, and this team is really deep. You got Alperen Sengun, you got Fred VanVleet. I think Amen Thompson will be a lot better this upcoming season now that he's got more opportunity. Maybe this is the year that Jalen Green, you know, finally figures things out and has that massive breakout that we've been waiting for. for the past few years. You got Tari Eason, Steven Adams is going to be healthy this upcoming year. You drafted Reed Shepherd in this past year's NBA draft. I think Cam Whitmore is going to be like a real contributor this upcoming season. The Rockets, I think, will be a solid team. Not to mention, they got Ime Udoka as their head coach. So because of that, I'm going to say that they do make the play-in tournament, and they very well could make the playoffs. There is definitely the possibility that they aren't a top 10 seed just simply for how good the Western Conference is, but I'm going to go ahead and say that they are a play-in team. At number 9, I got the Lakers. They got LeBron James and they got Anthony Davis, and they do have, a few solid guys, around those two. And they did draft Dalton Knecht in this past year's NBA draft, and I liked him a lot coming out of Tennessee. And I think, however, I will say the Lakers still have a very similar team to last year, and obviously last year they were super underwhelming, and they were just a mere 7 seed and a first-round exit. I think how good the Lakers are, it really hinges on, how good of a coach JJ Redick is, and me personally, I do think JJ Redick will be better than Darvin Ham was, and I think he will be decent. However, with that said, I do think JJ Redick is going to have some growing pains as a head coach, since he's never really coached at the NBA level before, and, he is a rookie head coach. So, and again, the Western Conference, it's so good, and the Lakers, they still got a very similar team to last year. And while I do think that good coaching can, elevate a team, even if they are lacking in talent, I do feel like at some point, that lack of talent, and the kind of personnel JJ Redick has to work with is going to hold them back. So the Lakers won't be bad. I think they will make the play-in tournament at the bare minimum, but I don't see them being, I don't think they'll be a top 5 seed or anything like that. At number 8, I got the Phoenix Suns. The Suns aren't a bad team, and, on paper, they still have that big three of Kevin Durant, Devin Booker, and Bradley Beal, but they were obviously really underwhelming last year. Like, yeah, part of that is injury, since Bradley Beal missed, about 30 games last year, but part of it is also just fit. I think Bradley Beal is a really awkward fit on that team, and I think that trade, especially in hindsight, was just not very good. And one of the biggest problems they had last year was not having a true playmaker. And they did sign Tyus Jones to kind of mitigate that. And I do think Tyus Jones is he is a really good true playmaker and whatnot. And in fact, he will be starting for them. But the problem with that is that, because Bradley Beal or Devin Booker is going to be your 3, that is really bad defensively, because look, Bradley Beal and Devin Booker, they aren't bad players. In fact, Devin Booker is one of the better players in the league. It's just neither of them are big enough to play the 3. So, I think that will spell issues for them in the regular season. So, yeah, the Phoenix Suns, look, they aren't a bad team by any means. However, I don't think they are going to be anything amazing. At number 7, I got the New Orleans Pelicans. The Pelicans, they are a pretty solid team. You obviously got Zion. You have Brandon Ingram, who had a down season last year, and there are doubts about his future with the team. But at the end of the day, he is still a good player. You obviously added DeJounte Murray. You got Herb Jones. You got CJ McCollum. You got Trey Murphy. You got Jose Alvarado. The Pelicans are not a bad team whatsoever. It's just Brandon Ingram, his fit with this team is a little bit awkward. Zion Williamson, he's really good. It's just he is so damn injury prone, and you really can't trust him to stay healthy. And at this point, you got to see it to believe it. And along with that, their center rotation and their bigs are not good whatsoever. In fact, it was reported that Herb Jones this year is kind of going to serve as their starting center. And Herb Jones is a phenomenal player. I love him. However, having him as your starting center, kind of being like your starting center, I don't know, man. I mean, that is definitely gonna, spell issues against bigger guys, especially if you play someone like the Nuggets or who have Nikola Jokic, or the Kings who got Domantas Sabonis. So yeah, the Pelicans, they should be pretty solid, but the Zion's health and their center rotation, that is a big problem. Speaking of the Kings, at number 6, I got the Sacramento Kings. The Kings last year were very disappointing after having an absolutely phenomenal 2023 season. They ended up missing the playoffs, but this year I do think they should bounce back. You got De'Aaron Fox, you got Domantas Sabonis. You still got a pretty good supporting cast around those two. You got Mike Brown as a really good head coach, and you obviously added DeMar DeRozan this year. And DeMar DeRozan, yeah, there are some questions about his fit, given the fact that he's not that good of a defender, and given the fact that he is a more ball dominant player since he can't really space the floor. But DeMar DeRozan does give them, a secondary shot creator. So, his addition, he definitely does bring positives to this team. And the Sacramento Kings, I think, at the bare minimum, should be a play-in team. And, me personally, I think this team, they will be they will be better than they were last year, and they will bounce back. I think Keegan Murray is going to have a really good third season, I guess have somewhat of a breakout. And I also think Keon Ellis is going to be really good this year. At number 5, I got the Memphis Grizzlies. The Grizzlies last year were obviously horrible, but that was mostly just due to the fact that Ja Morant was hurt for most of, he really didn't play much last year. But now that they got a fully healthy team, I think the Grizzlies should be in for a bounce back, and I think they will be like a top 6 seed in the Western Conference at the bare minimum. You obviously got Ja, Triple J, Desmond Bane, Marcus Smart. You drafted Zach Edey in this past year's NBA draft. You got some pretty good role players, outside of those guys. The Grizzlies, when they're healthy, are a really good team. I think Zach Edey will be a big X factor. Like, they will need him to be like a solid starting level guy, right off the bat in his rookie year. But I do think that he is capable of doing that. And I think the Memphis Grizzlies, they should be really good this upcoming season as long as they are healthy. At number 4, I got the Dallas Mavericks. The Mavericks, I think, at the bare minimum, will be a top 4 seed in the Western Conference. They're obviously the reigning Western Conference champions, and they very well could be higher. I mean, you got Luka, you got Kyrie Irving, you got a really good supporting cast around those guys. I think they, PJ Washington and Daniel Gafford now having a whole offseason to really get acclimated to this Mavericks team and system should really help them a lot. And Derek Lively, I think, will be a lot better, will be even better in his sophomore year. And the Mavericks, they did sacrifice some perimeter defense when they did let go of Derek Jones. However, they got Klay Thompson to replace him, and Klay Thompson, he is not prime Klay anymore. However, Klay Thompson, I think, can still serve as a good 3-and-D wing. Defensively, we'll see, just how good he is, because I don't think he'll be a liability, but obviously those injuries did take a toll on him. And as a three-point shooter, I think he is still very capable of being a great one. I mean, he's obviously an all-time great three-point shooter. It's just, in the past few years, he's kind of been inconsistent from 3. But yeah, man, the Mavericks, they're going to be really good this upcoming season. Not much else to say about them. At number 3, I got the Minnesota Timberwolves. The Wolves obviously made a miraculous run to the Western Conference Finals last year, and I think the Wolves are going to be great in the regular season yet again. In fact, I actually had them as the 1 seed before they traded away Karl Anthony Towns, and after I guess redoing my Western Conference predictions, I had them as the 3 seed, which is still pretty good. I mean, Minnesota, they still got Anthony Edwards, they still got Rudy Gobert, they still got Mike Conley, they still got Jaden McDaniels. You got now you got Julius Randle, who I think should be really good for them in the regular season at the bare minimum. Playoffs, obviously, that's a big question mark, but in the regular season, he should be pretty good for this team, and their bench, I think, should be really good. I mean, you got Naz Reid coming off the bench, you got Dante DiVincenzo, you got Nickeil Alexander-Walker. Rob Dillingham, I think, will show flashes in his rookie year. I don't think he'll be like a massive, significant contributor, but I do think he will show flashes. And the Wolves, they're going to be absolutely amazing this upcoming year. At number 2, I got my favorite team in the Denver Nuggets. The Nuggets, I know they lost KCP, but I mean, they still got a really good team led by arguably the best player in the whole world in Nikola Jokic. I mean, outside of Jokic, you still got Jamal Murray, you still got MPJ, you still got Aaron Gordon, you still got Mike Malone. And me personally, I do think Christian Braun will take a big leap this year and establish himself as a good starting level player, and he will be able to replace KCP pretty well. And I also do think that some of the young guys like Julian Strawther and Peyton Watson will take leaps. I like the addition of Russell Westbrook. Dario Saric isn't that bad of an addition as well. It is pretty tragic that Deron Holmes tore his Achilles, I believe. So that does suck. He won't be playing this year, but who knows? He should be good in the future. But the Nuggets, I think this team is still going to be really good. I think they will be like a top 4 seed in the Western Conference. It really just comes down to, Christian Braun, and then how is that bench going to be, and how are the young guys going to be? But yeah, the Denver Nuggets, they're still a great team. I am a little bit biased as a Nuggets fan putting them at number 2, but I don't think it's crazy saying that they could be the 2 seed this upcoming year. I think, again, they're going to be at least a top 4 seed. And then wrapping things up at number 1, I got the Oklahoma City Thunder. The Thunder were obviously the 1 seed last year, and I think this team is going to be, repeat that, a regular season success, similar to that of last year. You obviously got Shea, you got Jalen Williams, you got Chet Holmgren, you got Lou Dort. You obviously added guys like Alex Caruso and Isaiah Hartenstein. I think Kason Wallace is going to be even better this upcoming season. The Thunder, they got a really nice team, and I think they're going to be at least a top 4 seed in the Western Conference. And this year, now that they have some playoff experience under their belt, and, if some of the guys like Chet Holmgren and Kason Wallace and J-Dub, take leaps, the Thunder very well could win it all. Alright, now that we got my standings predictions out of the way, let's now go over my playoff predictions. So starting things off with the Eastern Conference, for the play-in tournament, I got the Hawks beating the Hornets, then I got the Sixers beating the Heat, and for the final playoff spot, I got the Heat beating the Hawks. Now in the first round, I got the Celtics beating the Heat in 5, the Knicks beating the Sixers in 6, the Pacers beating the Cavs in 7, and the Magic beating the Bucks in 7. For the second round, I got the Celtics beating the Magic in 6, the Knicks beating the Pacers in 6, and then for the conference finals, I got the Celtics beating the Knicks in 6. Now for the Western Conference, for the play-in tournament, I got the Suns beating the Pelicans, the Lakers beating the Rockets, and then I got the Lakers beating the Pelicans for the final play-in spot. So for the first round, I got the Thunder beating the Lakers in 5, the Nuggets beating the Suns in 5, the Wolves beating the Kings in 6, and then I got the Mavs beating the Grizzlies in 6. For the second round, I got the Nuggets beating the Wolves in 7, the Thunder beating the Mavs in 7. Then for the Western Conference Finals, I got the Thunder beating my Nuggets in 7 games. I hope that doesn't happen, but that's my prediction. So that sets us up with the finals between the Boston Celtics and the Oklahoma City Thunder. And I got the Boston Celtics winning in 6 games. This time, the finals MVP will be Jason Tatum, in my opinion, but instead of Jaylen Brown. But now that we got my playoff predictions out of the way, let's now end things off with my award picks. For MVP, I got Luka Doncic. Defensive Player of the Year, I got Victor Wembanyama. Rookie of the Year, I got Alex Sarr. Coach of the Year, I got Tom Thibodeau. Most Improved Player, I got Franz Wagner. And then Sixth Man of the Year, I got Malik Monk. But that'll do it for today's video. Thank you guys so much for watching. It really does mean a lot to me. Again, make sure to like and subscribe, and then check me out on social media. The links to my Twitter and Instagram are in the description below. But without further ado, I'm out, you guys.